Guys, welcome back to my channel. How are you doing? This video is about biracial case, and this lady was talking to a parents how to sit your kids down and explain to them what is the meaning of Miss case. So what she was saying is right, and there was a lot of stitching. I add everything together and bring it here.
I'm gonna need y'all white parents of biracial kids to listen in real quick. I'm gonna give you fair warning, this might be an uncomfortable conversation, but it's necessary. A lot of y'all's kids have complexes and identity issues, and it's not because they have a white parent. It's because a lot of y'all chose to have biracial kids before you unpacked your internalized racism and anti-blackness. It's because a lot of y'all have biracial children without learning enough about the black experience to guide your child through a black experience. To guide them through a world that is inherently anti-black. Cutting off your racist family members is not all it takes to raise a biracial kid. In fact, that doesn't even come close to the bare minimum. You can have the best intentions for your children while still causing them collective harm. And I first noticed this when my daughter was an infant and I started joining Facebook groups for parents of biracial kids. These white moms would have the best intentions, yet end up on Facebook crying about how their child was saying they didn't want to be black and they hated being black. And because these parents did not take the time to educate themselves whatsoever on systemic racism and anti-blackness on a level that they would be able to appropriately raise a biracial child, they were on the internet crying for help instead of helping their kid. You cannot shield your child from experiencing anti-blackness in the world, but you can equip them to deal with it. I get told pretty frequently that my daughter will be mistaken for a black mom biracial, and I'm going to explain to you why. First and foremost, she is not raised in an anti-black environment. A lot of black men, white women relationships are inherently anti-black, due to the fact that the relationship is based on fetishization and the hatred of black women instead of mutual love. The way that I look at it, the world is constantly going to be hurling anti-blackness at my child. And instead of acting like it does not exist, I have been equipping my child since birth to be able to handle said anti-blackness through radical self-love and positive identity. My child has at a young age told me that she wanted to be white to match her family. Right then and there, we had a very long conversation about anti-blackness and racism at 4 years old, and how her blackness was the most beautiful part of her. She made a comment one time about her baby doll, her black baby with coily hair, being ugly. Again, we had a long discussion about colorism, texturism, and racism. After that day, that baby did not leave her hip. You cannot just be not teaching your kid to be anti-black. You have to be preparing them for an anti-black world. You have to ensure that you are not feeding your child a complex towards other black people. That you're showing them how to cherish and uplift their community. See, biracial kids with white parents can be raised to be pro-black, but many aren't. And that is because their environment and their role models are not pro-black. If you don't want your child to have identity issues, it starts with you. It is wholeheartedly possible for you to educate yourself. A lot of y'all simply choose not to.
As a biracial child who was born into a family where they weren't really ready to have mixed or black kids, I have a few questions for you, so listen in. 1. Do your parents think of your mixed kids as an exception to the rule about black people? Where they actually hate other black people, look down on other black people, don't see them as full people, and your kids are the exception to the rule, but they're actually still racist? 2, have you set an expectation throughout your entire extended family that they need to have a pro-black politic to both support your partner and your children? 3, have you set the expectation that your entire family needs to have a pro-black politic because that is really integral to the fact that now you have black people in your bloodline? Have you done that yet? 4, do you put all the expectation and onus of protecting your kids on your black partner? And 5, did you think that simply birthing mixed kids made you an ally to them? Figure out your answer to these questions before you make your
white mother ever use my existence, the existence of my black biracial brother and sister, as a prop, as an accessory, as an example of times where she has objectified and fetishized a black man in order to create these black biracial children, in order to get back at her parents for their racism?
I really can't emphasize this one enough. Stop raising biracial children in predominantly white environments. If their black parent is involved in their life at all, they need to be their access point, obviously, to the black community. But if they are not, it is your responsibility, unfortunately, to work even harder to make access points for your child. You cannot have access points if you live in a predominantly white environment, if they go to predominantly white schools. This is something I've been seeing a lot in my comments, and there's not really a way to phrase it in a single comment that's not going to hurt somebody's feelings. One of the biggest issues that biracial children living with their white parent alone face is being brought up entirely in white spaces. How can you expect a biracial kid to not have identity issues if they're never around fucking black people? If their view of blackness is only coming from the perspective of whiteness? But aside from where you're raising your child should see you, their white parent, uplifting their community. You can't really just go make a child with a black person and then never involve yourself in the black community again. Well, I mean, you can, obviously. A lot of white women do that, but you shouldn't. I'm going to prioritize this one in order specifically for y'all. Do the work of anti-racism, and then go get you some black woman friends. And to add further emphasis, do not befriend black women to do the work of raising your biracial kid. Here's a way that I like to frame it. I seek friendships with people who share my interests, my values, my ideals. Due to the point that I'm at in my path deconstructing white supremacy along with my upbringing, it tends to be black women. Usually black women about 15 years older than me. I find it an added bonus that my child can look up to these women, can see how beautiful and amazing they are, and internalize that. Since I'm raising my kid alone, I know that my child needs black influences in her life. So, in conjunction with seeing positive representation of blackness everywhere, including in the way that I speak about black people around my child, I expose her to the incredible black people around me. And that is why she gravitates most towards friendships with black children. That is why black women are the only group of people that can get her to do something the first time. She seeks their approval because she looks up to them, because she sees herself in them. That is not an experience you can give biracial children when you raise them in an all-white community with all-white schools, if you don't have black friends. And that's something that a lot of people need to think about before they have biracial.
So, to the white women who think this way, what do you do when your biracial children are white presenting? Do you go out of your way to tell everyone that your child or children are biracial, mixed, half black, whatever the terminology you choose to use is? How do you raise them? Do you make sure your children know that being a white presenting biracial means that they are not the voice of authority when it comes to the black experience in America, and they are not here to negate the black experience in America by saying that they've never had any issues with police or they've never been followed around a store just because they were looking too long, or they've never experienced any racism? Do you tell your children that just because they have a black father, they aren't automatically granted an N-word pass? Because if you would never be at risk of being called the word derogatorily, there's nothing for you as a white presenting biracial to take back when it comes to the power of that word? Do you teach your child anti-racism? Do you incorporate your child's blackness into everything that you teach? Because I noticed that you asked, how are your mixed kids doing? Not, how's your interracial family? How's your black husband? So you fetishized a black man, created the mixed babies you wanted. So are you going to continue the tokenization with your own children? Asking for a friend.
2 points to make off of this video because it just none of it really made sense to me. The first thing is you avoid a lot of this, or at least you deal with this a lot better when you raise your children in the church and your children are brought up in Jesus and they're taught about God and everything that has to do with that. Because at that point, color, race, ethnicity, none of that crap matters. The only thing that should matter is, are you raising a decent child? Are you raising a person that's going to contribute to society? And most importantly, are you raising a child of God? At the end of the day, that's all that matters. Everything else that this woman was saying made very little, if any, sense, because it sounds like to me like you're trying to teach your kid to be a victim before other people make them a victim in order to keep them from being a victim. Like, it didn't make sense at all. Like, why would you want your kid to grow up with this identity crisis? And even better, let's say you teach your kid all of this stuff. Oh, Pete, the world's going to hate you because you're mixed. The world's going to do this because you're mixed, or whatever the case may be. What are you going to do when people don't do that? What are you going to do when you get to a point in your life where those people are not around your kid? And if they are, it's a onesie and twosie. Like, it's few and far between, because there's a good portion of society that's like that. And I'm speaking on this because I clearly have a mixed race child over there. And I'm not going to raise my kid up to believe and think that because he's part me and part his mom, part black and part white, black is whatever people want to claim it is, that somehow he's going to be an issue in society, or that society is going to have this massive issue with him. As if there aren't millions upon millions of successful people who are mixed race. Like, why do you want to grow your child with this kind of a mindset? Because all you're doing is creating another victim. All you're doing is creating another person who is going to walk around with a chip on their shoulder and walk around with this horrible identity crisis that was planted by you, the parent. Like, that makes no sense to me at all. Because let's be real, especially if you're over the age of 30, if someone doesn't hate you for your skin color, I promise you, there's thousands of other things that they can find a reason to hate you for. So why should you let color be the one thing that makes your life so much harder when it honestly truly doesn't have to be? Like, and all this systemic crap is, stop listening to social media, like, antagonists that just promote that crap. Just stop.
It is literally because of stuff like this that I don't fuck with other white women that have mixed kids. Now, before we get into the whole moral high ground thing, let's make two things clear. Number one, I was raised in a POC family, POC community. I was raised with entirely different values, and I was raised around people that were darker than me. So it was not fetishization, it was literally just environmental. Number two, every single interaction that I have had with white women with biracial kids has been fucking disgusting. About a year and a half ago, I met a woman out here, and I was really excited to meet another white woman that had mixed kids. To be fair, she had one, exactly. She was married to a white man, they had like 3 white kids on top of that. But I was like, cool, I don't have any friends out here. Let me try to make a friend. She seems all right, and we have something in common. Now, within the first 2 conversations that we had on Facebook Messenger, this woman told me how she is certain that all black men are deadbeat dads because she chose an ain't shit baby daddy because she fetishized a black dude one time when she was 17, 18 years old and made a mixed kid that represented the whole. Now, on top of this, she did not allow her mixed kid to have any contact with their black family. And she was super MAGA trumped out and was always posting the cringiest, most racist shit, specifically towards black people. She would be saying outrageous shit about, like, the phrase black is beautiful, and, oh, well, I can't say white is beautiful, that would be a problem, blah, blah, blah. Telling me how she did not teach her daughter to think of herself as any differently than her white siblings. That she was not going to teach her kid about racism or anything like that. She never did her kid's hair. I mean, I could just go on and on. And then I've dated a few biracial dudes with white moms, and, I can, just add to the list of all of the racial trauma of growing up with a white mother. And while I'm grateful that my kid is going to have an outlier experience from that, I understand that that's not the norm. The majority of white women are not raised around a lot of people of color or by people of color. But the men that are letting this happen need to be having a very hard look at the type of women that they're procreating with. There are too many biracial kids coming out talking about their experiences with their white mothers and how fucked up it was. Y'all got to stop treating mixed kids like trophies. They are human beings. They don't deserve to be the product of fetishization. They don't deserve to have to deal with your racist ass.
So I've been trying to digest this. I'm the mother of a biracial child. I was also disowned by my family for marrying someone that was black and having a biracial child in 1999. Here's the thing, kiddo. This is harmful to your children. Your partner is not a prop. That's disgusting. You should not be fetishizing your partner. Oh my God. You absolutely should never be fetishizing your children. They are not props. They are human beings. Complex, beautiful, amazing human beings who deserve the full breadth of the human experience. And you using them as props is incredibly disgusting.